Alrighty, today we're going to be talking about pretty much housing prices, the median housing prices against the average Australian's income, and basically how it pretty much sets you up for a life of debt and paying 8 times what you want to pay for an asbestos shack or garage. Pretty similar to the one I'm actually in right now. Now, recently there was a change where the Labor Australian federal government brought in a 5% deposit scheme. Basically, now first home buyers can now get in the property market and become home buyers with a 5% deposit. So basically saying if you have $50,000, that's 5%, you can buy a $1 million house, or at least get a mortgage for a $1 million house. So you're putting a deposit down on a mortgage and you're getting a loan of $950,000. Obviously, that depends on your borrowing power. That's probably for a couple. However, it's kind of batshit crazy when you actually work it out, because it all sounds dandy. Oh, man, I can get into the property market. I've only got 5%. This is sweet. Well, it's all good. But when the dust settles and it gets real quiet after you got the loan and year 9, year 15 of paying off the mortgage in your house that's falling down, and you're still working 30 hours of overtime to keep that up, that expected income up, well, it's not the prettiest. So just going to go through mainly Sydney, because that's where I live, but and just look at how you could get into the property market with a 5% deposit based on the average income. So according to the median income, we're not going to do average, because average skewed by higher income earners. Median is always a better 50% down the middle, normal distribution and all that. According to this, the median weekly wage is $1,396. ABS August 2025, so it could be a bit off now, but around $1,350, $1,400, 80 something grand a year, or just about, so maybe 79, 80 grand a year before tax. Now, of course, with a 5% deposit and the interest rates around 5.6, 5.5% at the current moment. So we're just going to go through it. So if you wanted to buy a place in the inner city, the average house price in Surrey Hills, Darlinghurst, the median house price is 1.9 to 2 million. So for 5% deposit, you'd have 105 grand saved up. You'd be getting a loan of $1.9 million. And for a 30-year mortgage, you'd be paying $1,200 a week, which would be 87% of your weekly income. Not 87% paid back. 87%. You would have 13% left of your income as a whole to pay food, insurance. I mean, you may as well just eat, sleep for dinner. You'll be having ice soup, pretty much. I mean, what do these people expect? And let me just rail this back in. You're not only getting a loan where you're paying basically $1,300 a week, you're paying 88 grand of stamp duty. So we're going to wipe off the inner city, obviously affluent, wealthy areas. I mean, look, even an apartment here, the median apartment price is $900K for a 1 to 2 bedder. That's a 50 grand deposit. By the way, you have to save this deposit. So you could be saving $500 a week for the next 2 years, slaving. That's almost half your income if you're below median income. And all you're getting is the opportunity to get into the property market. You're not getting into the property market. You're getting a liability. Your next 30 years of your life, if you're 18, you will be 48 when you finally finish paying $1,300 a week. Now, I don't know about you, but a lot happens in 30 years. You won't have the same job. You might not have the same income. You might have kids. You might have more expenses. You might be doing something else, and you're trapped for 30 years. Yes, you can sell it. However, it's not always that simple. So, obviously, we'll throw out that. The eastern suburbs and North Sydney, all the same. They're like $3 to $4 million house prices. No one, that's high income earners. This 5% deposit isn't going towards that. And if you are using all of your income to buy a house in North Sydney or eastern suburbs with a 5% deposit, you would be paying something like $2.5 grand a week in repayments for 30 years. Now, look, you'll be a higher income earner if you can even qualify for that, but let's let's keep it real. No one's doing that. No one's doing that unless they have the money and they can afford it. So we'll go to places that are affordable. We're going to be looking at, Western Sydney, the kind of outskirts of southern Sydney, southwestern Sydney, everywhere that's kind of out of the way. Honestly, 20 to 50 kilometres from the CBD. So are you really in Sydney? You're in the outskirts, you're in a suburb. You're not actually in Sydney. I mean, let's be real here. Just because you live in Austral and is counted as the Sydney area, you're 45 kilometres as the crow flies to Sydney. You're probably a 70-kilometre drive on the motorway. Yeah, you're in the Sydney area on your driver's licence, but I mean, come on. So if you want to live in Riff, Parramatta, St Mary's, the average house price, median, is 1 million or 1.2 million. What a bargain! 55% deposit, obviously, over $1 million loan, and you'd be paying back $630 a week. Honestly, could be worse. It'll be about 45% of your income, and kind of the same for southern Sydney, except it's much more expensive. Hurstville, Rockdale, kind of even further down, like Sutherland, is $85,000 deposit, 1.6 to 1.8% median house price. Insane. You'd be paying back $1,000 a week, 70% of your income. And let's not forget about the stamp duty. In Mount Druitt, you'd be paying $40,000 stamp duty. And in southern Sydney, you'd be paying around $70,000. Now, I don't know if these people think you're stupid, but even an apartment is around $600,000 for a 2-bedroom, or $700,000-800,000 for a 2-bedroom in southern Sydney. They're obviously 30 to 40 grand deposits. You're paying back $400-500 a week. And it's pretty much the only thing affordable here, if you're a single person, would be to get a dog box of an apartment, live in a shoebox, honestly, live in an asbestos-ridden shack garage like this, and just kind of hope for the best, because what can you really do? If you're a single person, you literally cannot buy a house unless you inherit money from someone, you win the lottery, you are somehow in the top 1% of earners that earn like $5 grand a week and can qualify for $1 million mortgage. Otherwise, you literally cannot qualify. The max borrowing power you'd probably have, if you're on the median income, you're single, and you have probably 5% deposit, you could probably get $500,000 loan, which you could get an apartment in a kind of alright area, maybe a dodgy area, get a 2-bedroom. Like, you're not going anywhere nice. You're not probably getting a new apartment. You're probably getting an old apartment. That's fine. But for the money you're paying, I mean, 50 grand on top of a $500,000 mortgage, and you're paying that for 30 years, and you're getting an old apartment. I mean, if it's old now, what happens in 30 years? It doesn't include strata. It doesn't include anything. It's a bit blackpilling. Now, I mean, obviously, pointing these things out doesn't help, but let's look at Austral. I was talking about it before. You're 40 kilometres as the crow flies to the CBD. I think you're about a 65, 70 kilometre drive if you want to actually get to the CBD. And a house there, it's almost in the Wallandilly Shire, is $1 to $1.1 million. $52,000 deposit, 5%, $1 million loan. Obviously, about $35,000 stamp duty. I know, first home buyer relief. Sure. The first home buyer is going to get a bit of relief on stamp duty. Great. They need the relief because they're getting into a 30-year liability of basically paying $500-600 a week. And if you're a single person and you're earning $1,000 a week, $600 a week, you're left with $400 for groceries, insurance, car insurance, your petrol. So if I'll put some expense up here, there's the average expenses of those. How much does that leave you to spend on, I don't know, living? And that's just if you're single. I mean, if you're a single parent, you have kids, the average kids cost what, $200-300 a week? You're paying $600 a week. There you go. You've got $900 left. If you earn $1,200, you're under the 50%. Half the population is earning less than that. Good luck. Bye. Have fun paying, $600 a week, another couple hundred on your kids and that. You'll have no disposable income. One medical setback, 1 week off work could literally put you in debt for the rest of your life, bankrupt you, make you homeless. I mean, look, it's It's crazy. And to be honest, all of these new estates that are popping up with 1.1 million, these 5% deposit things, you're not getting into the housing market. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it $1.50. You're becoming extra liquidity for property developer. We have Meriton, who knows, McDonald Homes, whatever you want to call them, whatever developer is building an estate, God knows where. This applies to the whole of Australia, the whole of the world. It's happening in America, UK. You are exit liquidity. The developers don't care how you live. They don't care if your apartment's tiny, if the fridge door hits the kitchen cabinets when it opens. They don't care about that. They care about, all right, we bought this site, we bought this bit of farmland off this old boomer who doesn't care about the future and doesn't care about the area. We've paid our mate in zoning. Now we can develop into 300 square meter houses where the sides of the fence are this far away from the actual house. You can't even walk past it. They don't care about any of that. They go, we want to double our money. We'll shove as many houses in there as possible. We don't care about your repayments. We don't care about your quality of life. We don't care if the building's terrible. I mean, you see all these building inspectors on YouTube, on even the mainstream media, of people basically doing building inspections. Brand new houses are dog shit. The walls are half slanted. The places look like they fall down in a soft breeze. Drive past all these new duplexes, and in about 6 months, they look like about to fall down. I mean, like, it's insane. And it's... These housing prices, another thing is everyone's got a mortgage, and everyone's being told that property is a great investment. And all these people are so bound to their debt, their mortgage payments, that their house has to go up in value if they sell it. There's no ebbs and flows in the market anymore. There's so many people with mortgages now that are so hell-bent on being able to at least pay off what they owe, rather than, just sell it for what it's worth. Like, no one's selling a house for what it's worth anymore. People are basing the value of their house on how much do I need to pay my mortgage off by. Like, you're not buying a house in Australia. You're getting a liability and hoping that you can sell it off later to at least pay off your liability or make a little bit of money. I mean, you're either extra liquidity or you're selling it and hoping the next person will be your extra liquidity. It's kind of insane. With these 5% deposits, what are you doing? You're getting, basically, hey mate, you're going to give me $1,200 a week and I'll let you live there. Like, it's kind of crazy. And you can say, all right, rent and invest. Well, you can't, just say that, because all these people that are renting, guess what? Who are they paying off? They're paying off someone else's mortgage, and that person is setting the rent price based on the mortgage they have to pay off for that house. So you're just paying a mortgage in a different way. You're just paying for it, and then you don't even get to sell the house and maybe get a bit back from the Ponzi scheme. And it keeps going, and more people buy houses, and things are going to get better. Well, honestly, the housing minister for the federal government has said that they don't want to make housing cheaper. I'll bring up the exact quote here. It's, we don't want to make housing cheaper. We just want to make it go up slower. So before people say, it could go down, there could be a crash. Right. Well, these people don't think so. These people are going to print the money. They're going to keep the property market going by letting people in who probably shouldn't be going into it. I mean, 5% deposit, can you really afford $1 million house in Sydney? If you want to have children, you have to have a house, basically. You want a backyard, you want the Australian dream. Our society is so focused, every time you turn on the news, it's about the RBA is cutting interest rates. We'll finally be able to afford our payments again. Should you be getting $1 million mortgage if you can't afford the repayments? It's kind of scary. And it's becoming a big Ponzi scheme. What's going to happen? It's kind of a game of hot potato. These governments realize, at least subconsciously realize, they probably realize fully, and they're not going to say anything because why would they want to? They realize that if the economy crashes when they're in power, the opposition, whichever party will get in power next, because they'll say, look what Liberal did, or look what Labor did. They crashed the housing market. They screwed over many of ordinary Australians. No. This has been set up for so long to fail. housing prices have almost doubled or tripled in areas from 2018 to 2025 now. That's 7 years. Some of them have doubled, some of them have tripled. Areas like Wollongong, South Coast, North Coast even, people are moving out there because they go, I can't afford Sydney. I may as well drive 5 hours to work every morning. Obviously not 5 hours, but I may as well drive 2.5 hours and live in past Gosford. And even those areas are doubling and tripling because people are going, man, I need to afford a house. So these governments, it's not just going to go away slowly. It's going to be a crash and bang. Just as the mortgage crisis in 2008, it wasn't meant to happen. People were doing the wrong thing and they thought the party would go on forever. The bubble's not going to burst, is what they were thinking. And these governments are basically going to hot potato it around, pass to the parcel. They're going to print as much money as possible because they don't want to be in power when the housing market fails, because they both gain from it. They both gain power. They both gain the ability to put down their political opponents, and that's what they want. You know, if Labor were in power today and the housing market slowly crashed, Liberal would be licking their lips. And just the same as with, if Liberal were in power, Labor would get cheering. They don't care about the average Australian losing their house. It's about, you know, who's in power at the time, what they can use for their political gain. So before you look across the aisle for an ability to go, man, who do I support? Just remember they both benefit from this. It's just who's in the hot seat at the time. Who's caught with a knife in their hand? You know, was it Colonel Mustard? Who's caught with a knife in their hand and who is convenient at the time? Just like how originally it was, you know, bit of a spooky segue, but, you know, with Jeffrey Epstein, a lot of the time the right for so long was going on about Jeffrey Epstein and how could the government cover this up, and Joe Biden's not talking about it. And the right were using it for so long. And now look, the right are in power, and now the left have pivoted and go, man, this Epstein stuff's horrible. Nothing in today's political landscape is about confirmed beliefs, strong pillars, cornerstones, characteristics. It's about what's convenient at the time, what suffices. These people don't have a motive. It's, I want to win. It's, okay, I can use this argument now, and if I can't use this argument, it's being used against me. It doesn't matter, I'll ignore it. You know, these governments, they don't want to address the housing crisis and say they're too expensive, we have a problem, we have inflation, because they're the ones in power. They're not doing anything to stop it. They're letting more people buy houses. There's already a diminished supply, and then they're making it easier for you to buy a house. I mean, what do you want to do? And then even scarier than a 5% deposit, there's even more things. I've seen a few of these financial industries and financial companies come out, and basically there's things where you can get a loan. If you have a 2% deposit or the equivalent of a 2% deposit for an apartment or a house, you can get a loan for the extra 3% and roll that into your mortgage. So you don't even have to have a 5%. I'll bring up the website here. I've seen a few ads about it on YouTube, and it's saying only have 2%, only have 3%. Do you have $5,000 in your account? Do you want to pay $1,200 a week for 45 years? Well, you can too. Put it on interest free. Add another 5 years to your mortgage. You know, like these things sound good to people who are desperate to buy a house, desperate to fit in. With things in Australia, the social capital, social credit you get by buying a house, you're esteemed. It's very celebrated. Everything on the news is about housing prices. It's a pivotal value, or at least it seems to be, in the Australian system of owning a home. And these things now, they're pushing people to the brink and making them do crazy, absurd things. Like, you shouldn't be getting a loan to get another loan, to qualify for the loan. If you're getting a loan because you only have 2%, you can't afford that loan. But these financial systems don't care. If they can get you to sign, they can get you to pay. They don't care how you're living. They don't care if you're eating pine nuts for the next 37 years and living in a shoebox. They want you to pay. So I want you to think about this. Honestly, it's a Ponzi scheme. Where will it go? How long will it take? I mean, look, it'd be easy, it'd be nice to say the Australian housing market needs to crash within a year or two. People have been saying this for 4, 5, 6 years. Houses are just getting more and more expensive. The rates keep getting cut. When will it end? Who knows? But that's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May.